You know guys, after witnessing the number 60 Roush Xfinity car's season in 2018, I didn't actually think another racing car could be as cursed as that one. But the Chip Ganassi Racing 01 Cadillac V Series R has given that car a run for its money ever since. Following the introduction of the new hypercar regulations, Chip Ganassi Racing would enter this car full-time in IMSA in 2023, the yellow 01 Cadillac. Behind the wheel full-time would be four-time IndyCar champion Sébastien Bourdais and IMSA veteran Renger van der Zande. The World Endurance Championship would also see a yellow Cadillac from Chip Ganassi that year too, only this time in a part-time schedule with a number 3 on the front. The yellow Cadillac would make its debut at the 2023 Rolex 24 at Daytona. Its first ever qualifying session would go reasonably well, with it lining up P4 for the big race. Cadillac would have a smooth run during the race until the night phase. After the Tower Motorsports LMP2 car spun ahead, Scott Dixon would check up to avoid contact. Unfortunately, this didn't prevent an LMP3 car behind Scott from ramming into the back of him and giving the yellow Caddy diffuser damage. On top of having to pit for repairs, the car would see misfortune again as Dixon exited the pit stall too early while fuel was still being supplied to the car. This unsafe release would see the 01 slapped with a penalty. Despite the misfortune, the 01 Cadillac would still cross the line at the end of the race to take a P3 on its debut. The car brought race-winning speed to the second round of the IMSA Championship at Sebring. However, from the lead of the race with a little over 3 hours left, Sébastien Bourdais pulled into the pits, much to the surprise of commentary. When the hard cam showed the rear of the Cadillac, one could see smoke and flames. Bourdais would exit the car visibly frustrated as the crew would try to find out what they could do to salvage the day. It was over, and upon further evaluation, the Cadillac was wheeled behind the wall in retirement. Luckily for the Cadillac brand, they'd still take home the win thanks to Action Express Racing's number 31 car taking victory. Long Beach would serve as a prime opportunity for the team to bounce back from such a disappointing end, but a race that should be considered a sprint in this series, with a duration of just an hour and 40 minutes, would see Cadillac fail to complete one turn. As Bourdais blasted down the front stretch, he had to yield after a slight squeeze from the Meyershank Acura that sees him drop to 4th behind one of the two BMWs. In an attempt to make up the lost time, Bourdais goes late on the brakes. This goes against him as he loses the car and collided with the inside wall before the 01 Cadillac came to a rest at the Turn 1 runoff area. The race would end right there, and the Cadillac would have 2 DNFs in 3 starts. Things wouldn't be much better over in the World Endurance Championship either. Cadillac would field 2 cars at the 6 hours of Spa, with the yellow Caddy joining the fleet alongside the full-time blue number 2 entry. The yellow Caddy ran as high as P2 until around 2 hours and 20 minutes into the race. As the Caddy went up Eau Rouge, Renger van der Zande got loose. This lack of stability hurled the car into the inside barrier, with the impact completely destroying it. As Renger exited the now destroyed Caddy, the audience applauded in relief that he was okay, and he responded with a bow. The yellow Caddy's only other appearance in the World Endurance Championship came at that year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, where it came home a respectable P4 behind its sister car in 3rd. Back over in America, the 4th IMSA race of the season at Laguna Seca saw the yellow Caddy reach its highest heights, with Bourdais and Renger wheeling it to its maiden win in the series after a day packed with overtakes. Watkins Glen would see misfortune return the way of the yellow Caddy as Bourdais, trying to lap a GT3 car, lost control of his car, causing a spin. This spin happened directly in the path of an oncoming BMW GTP that rear-ended the Caddy, giving it further damage. Luckily, despite this incident, the car would keep going, only to get caught up in another pileup later involving 2 GT3 cars and an LMP3, resulting in more nose damage. Despite this, Bourdais and Renger fought on to bring the car home in P5. The following round at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park saw even more harsh times for the 01. With less than 6 minutes left in the race, Renger was in a heated duel with a BMW being driven by Augusto Farfus when contact was made, sending the yellow Caddy into the barriers, another DNF. P4 at Road America saw a relieving trouble-free day for the squad, but at Indianapolis, things went south again by turn 1. Bourdais got a great jump off the second row and tried to do his best George Russell Spain 2024 impression by attempting a move for the lead around the outside. What he couldn't have predicted was one of the Porsches locking up, causing him to slow down massively to take evasive action, which sent him off the track. While attempting to rejoin, Seb was spun by another GTP car, sinking it to last in class. The 01 Caddy could only manage P7 at the end. The final round of the season would actually end on a high. After scoring 2 podiums all season, Bourdais, Van der Zande, and third driver Scott Dixon would take a brilliant P2 at Petit Le Mans as Cadillac took the manufacturer's championship. In the end, the 01 car finished 7th in the GTP standings. Their consolation prize would come in the form of a P3 finish in the Michelin Endurance Cup. Come 2024, Chip's 01 Cadillac sought to right the wrongs of 2023 by producing a more consistent season, but all hopes of that were dashed early on at the season-opening Rolex 24. Despite a strong showing all race by both Cadillacs, the 01's race would come to a screeching halt with mechanical issues with a little less than 11 hours left in the race. This meant that the 01 car started with a DNF to its name. A shocking announcement would come that would rock the IMSA paddock for the foreseeable future. Chip Ganassi Racing and Cadillac announced that they were parting ways at the end of 2024, ending both its partnership in the World Endurance and IMSA Championships. Unconfirmed rumors cited the team's poor showing in 2023 as the reason for the split. This meant that this would be the last ever season for the yellow 01 Caddy. Sebring would be much better as the yellow Caddy barely lost out on victory, being passed for the win by the number 40 Acura with less than 10 minutes left. After narrowly missing out on victory, the yellow Caddy would go back to Long Beach, the site of its embarrassing lap 1 incident the year prior, and banished the demons of that race by taking victory from its red sibling. The yellow Cadillac's momentum would continue at Laguna Seca, with a banger lap from Seb Bourdais giving it not only its first pole of 2024, but the yellow Caddy's first pole ever. Mishaps with strategy meant that the yellow Caddy would finish in P5. A P3 in Detroit would be a much-needed podium for momentum, as the team would once again be invited to compete at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Scott Dixon would once again serve in a third driver capacity for the team, which rebranded as the 3 for the race. Now, the 2 Chip Ganassi Cadillacs had impressive speed this time around at the Circuit de la Sarthe. With 11 minutes left in Hyperpole, Seb Bourdais pulled out a blinding lap to take provisional pole by over 3/10. Bourdais would hold on to this pole position for almost the entire session. However, on the final flying laps of the session, the yellow Caddy would be beaten by less than a tenth by its own compatriot, the blue number 2 Cadillac driven by Alex Lynn. Chip Ganassi's 2 Cadillacs sat 1-2 at Le Mans, but the dream would be crushed mere seconds later as Kevin Estre, in his number 6 Penske Porsche, would exit the final chicane and put down a lap that got pole at the last second. The race pace was lacking for the yellow Caddy, and it fell back to the midsection of the top 10. The major highlight for the car heading into the night was Bourdais briefly going off track on cold slicks. After a grueling night of mostly staying behind the safety car for multiple hours, the yellow Cadillac was still running in a decent top 10 spot. That was until hour 18, when the car screeched to a halt with an issue right after exiting the pits. Try as he might, Scott Dixon struggled to get the car back to the pits, and he eventually did, but the amount of time lost killed any chances of the number 3 car taking the win. The car eventually retired. Back stateside for IMSA, and the yellow Caddy would bounce back from Le Mans heartbreak by bagging a strong P2 at Watkins Glen. The high would be met with another crushing low. At the next IMSA round in Road America, the yellow Caddy could only manage a P9 after going off track with one of the Rahal BMWs. At the penultimate round at Indianapolis, the Caddy came out swinging with a great opening half of the race that saw it fighting for the lead and leading the race despite conditions being very wet. Unfortunately, a puncture saw the Cadillac drop multiple laps down. It would finish P8 at the end, making any hope of a championship very bleak. The '01 Cadillac would head into Road Atlanta for what would be its final ever outing. It donned a pink livery this time around for its last go in honor of breast cancer research. The only way for the car to take the GTP title now would be to win the pole and the race, with the number 7 Porsche qualifying and finishing last. Safe to say this didn't happen. They qualified P4, excluding it from the title fight. Now early in the race things were business as usual for the '01 car. Terrible luck. It got penalized by way of an early mechanical black flag. The car would have to come into the pits to address the issue, and when it rejoined, it was far behind the leaders and last of the GTPs. Things went from bad to worse when the Caddy got another penalty for incident responsibility later on. The car would be trapped a lap down, but between Scott, Seb and Renger, they continued to push, eventually getting back onto the lead lap and reaching as high as P3. Everything changed with less than an hour to go when the Proton Mustang crashed, leading to a chain reaction of events that saw the number 10 Acura drop out of the race from P2. This put the '01 Cadillac in P2 right behind the leading number 6 Porsche for what would be the final restart of the race. Renger would hunt down the leading car of Nick Tandy and eventually get the lead. After all the bad luck it had ever suffered, the '01 Cadillac was going to end its lifespan on top. But then, it happened.
Whoa, no, hang on a minute! This is a disaster! The number 01 car's going to have to come to the pit lane. It's lost its left-hand headlight, exactly what we were talking about earlier on.
With just 4 minutes to go, the headlights went out. A DQ-worthy offense in IMSA if they didn't fix it. If the lights didn't come back on the '01 car, it would be DQ'd in its last ever start from the lead with barely any time left. However, thanks to elite button mashing by Renger van der Zandt, those lights came back on, and he drove the Caddy to victory in its last hurrah in the IMSA GTP Championship. Poetic to say the least. With better luck at Daytona and Indy, this car could have been right in the hunt for the GTP title. The '01 Cadillac will go down as a car that had arguably the most eventful on-track life of any hypercar since the launch of the new regs. From its many lows and instances of bad luck, to its 3 victories, 8 podiums and 2 poles in IMSA, and a spot on the Forza cover for good measure, endurance fans all over the world will miss this car with its beautiful yellow, gold and pink liveries. Rest easy number '01 Cadillac, you've earned it. My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching.